Welcome to the Take Up Space Summit. This is a gathering of amazing women leaders who embody the principles of feminine wisdom. We are living in a time when the old ways of dominance just don't cut it anymore. It's time for us to step up and lead with empathy, collaboration, and mutual support. This event is designed to inspire women from all over the world to take up space, to resist and challenge systems that seek to silence or erase our voices, and to do it all with grace and ease. This is your opportunity to honor your power as a woman and to unapologetically elevate every aspect of your life, from your relationships to your career, and to do so with ease and pleasure. So let's celebrate and prioritize the sacred feminine in us and create a beautiful space where we can all thrive together. I'm your host for this event, Irene Chong, and today I'm excited to present Daven Lee, who'll be sharing more on the feminine power of your sexual soul. Now, Daven's complete bio is available on the Summit website, but I'd like to briefly introduce this amazing woman. So Daven is passionate about supporting women to connect with their sexual energy, or what she calls their sexual soul. Her work, The Power of the Yin, is sourced from her own journey, as well as her work with clients for nearly a decade. Her practice is grounded in Qigong, sacred Taoist sexuality, biodynamic cranial sacral therapy, and other somatic healing and movement arts. She is a dancer, the mother of 2 adult children, and the only daughter of 2 artists. She's also the creator of the Power of the Yin Oracle deck, a beautifully artistically created set of cards. Based in London, Daven works with clients all over the world in person and virtually. You can learn more about her work at davenlee.com. Now, Daven, what I love most about your work and your message is this piece around a woman's sexuality, which is her sensuality and her erotic imagination. And in the work that you do, you claim that this is a sacred gift that's designed to keep us healthy. It opens our hearts, it lights us up with pleasure, and when women connect with this part of themselves, they move from shame, disappointment, disconnection to an empowered place of sovereignty and integrity. So I'd first like to jump in by asking a question that I ask every speaker, so the audience can get to know you in a more personal and deeper way. And the question is this: what was the greatest challenge in your life when it came to taking up space? And perhaps you can respond to this in terms of embracing your sexual power. And how did you overcome this?
Yes, thank you, Irene. So my work began with the ending of my marriage, and even before that, not realizing how unhappy I was in my marriage. I knew that we did not have a sexual connection and hadn't had one for many, many years. What I didn't know is that this was an indicator of so many other things that weren't working in our relationship and weren't working in my own personal life. And that desire for sexual connection was so strong in me. And not only sexual connection, but actually my own sexual expression. Yes, I wanted to be connected with another with that, but it was really about my own energy that I could not ignore. And there's so many messages in our culture that tell us that sexual desire is kind of immature. You know, here you are, you're in a marriage, you have more important things to focus on. Sexuality is not significant. You need to really just get on with things, raise your children, keep your family together. Those are the important things. And I realized, so this was a real painful puzzle for me. And I had this question of, is my commitment to my marriage going to require this great sacrifice of my sexual energy and my sexual expression? And I started to, I've always been very physically active. I was figure skating at the time. I started getting injured, having a series of injuries. and this physical form of expression, which brought me into my body, not unlike sexual energy, it was my life force energy, was starting to feel unsafe. And it was feeling like, wow, this one outlet that I have that's keeping me sane is being taken away from me. So it was through working with a couple of healers who were helping put me back together when I would get injured, that I would talk with them about this energy coming up for me and not knowing what to do and not knowing where to go with it. And I remember one session where we were talking about that energy. It was coming up. There was this tightness in my pelvis and my pain in my sacrum. And we were, trying to loosen that up. And the practitioner asked me, what I started to cry actually, as they were working on my sacrum. And they said, what's going on? What's going on here? And I said, it's my sexual energy. And I said, I feel like to open up to this energy is going to, it's going to it's going to destroy everything in sight. It's going to take everything down if I let this energy out. I could sense how powerful it was. And the practitioner said, well, maybe we shouldn't go there. And I was devastated that was the response. And I said, no, I have to go there. And so I really think that was the moment where I made the commitment and realized that this wasn't something I could ignore. And very quickly, I was connected. Actually, that same practitioner recommended that I work with a particular Qigong teacher who was also a teacher of sacred Taoist sexuality. And what I discovered immediately was that sacred Taoist sexuality offers a worldview about sexuality that energy is actually our life force essence, and it is the source of our creativity. So, in your introduction, you were talking about our erotic minds, our bodies, our pleasure, and it's really the underlying energy for everything that we do and every way that we express ourselves. And when it was just the biggest confirmation for me to understand that. And then to know that these traditions also offered practices, that there's this law, it's the same with Tantra. These are the sort of Eastern wisdom traditions that have developed these systems for cultivating and integrating and refining that energy so that you use it with great responsibility. And that it takes you to it's a spiritual growth process. It's a spiritual growth path to work with this energy.
Thank you for sharing all of that, Daven. I feel that, your personal story and your evolution of moving through loss and grief and devastation to arriving at a place, making that commitment to say, I'm going to explore, I'm going to deepen further. I think that's a story or a journey that a lot of our audience here would be able to resonate with. When something comes and you feel that a shift is happening, do you say yes or do you contract? And for you, when you made that journey, it sounds like you and then embarked on an amazing discovery that is now informing your work. Exactly. And I know that you often refer to like a woman's sexual soul. So can you speak more into like, what is the sexual soul and how can women connect with their sexual souls in a deeper and more intimate way?
Yes. So I was speaking a lot about sexual energy. And what I'm understanding now, so there is sexual energy that has its own kind of sense, meaning, expression, but that sexual energy is connected to our sexual soul, which to me is this presence of our essence, if you will. I mean, in a way, I don't like to describe it in too much detail because I want every woman to discover for themselves what their sexual soul means to them and how they experience it. But so I'll speak about my sense of it and also how I am looking for it and tracking it in the women that I work with. So it is this additional kind of presence or being that has come to be embodied in our bodies. It's come to be embodied in my body to have a physical experience in the world. And it is connected with this, how we want to create in the world, how we show up in the world, what our truest expression is. Definitely pleasure, and not just sexual pleasure, but all kinds of pleasure, because it's really it's the range, right? It's the range of aliveness. What is the pleasure of aliveness? That is all the realm of the sexual soul. And it's an incredibly powerful energy. So it's fascinating doing this work. There's definitely women who are just like, yes, I'm diving right in. And then there's so many who have so much trepidation and fear. And yes, I think it has a lot to do with the cultural messages of shame and all the ways in which our sexuality has been controlled or oppressed. And at the end of the day, I think we all know how powerful that energy is, and that it will ask of us to really change our life structure, to change really who we think we are. It brings us into a different understanding of who we think we are. So it's very powerful. And this is why it's so helpful to have somebody who is a guide, who holds a very clear, loving, but strong container for awakening that energy, for turning to that energy, to beginning to understand that energy. And actually, as I'm speaking, I could also be describing the power of the yin, which is, of course, the name of my work. You know, the yin is this vast, mysterious energy that is the source of creation. It is the source of life. And it doesn't fit into boxes. It can't be easily described. It's beyond the mind. It's a felt sense. It's an energetic sense. It's just very, very mysterious, can be very chaotic, very, it's easy to feel a sense of being lost. The North Star is not very clear when you're in the realm of the yin, and yet it's also an incredible place of power, because it is so hard you can't really grasp it with the mind, and so it can feel really overwhelming. And so the way I work with women to connect with their sexual souls within this context of the power of the yin is to go very slow and to take small steps. So which is yin itself, to go slowly. This is not about, we're going to figure all this out in one go, or we're going to take all of this on and get it done and pack it away, and now we've taken care of that. And so it's like, you know, taking small bites of this huge being. And then as we do, that allows us to integrate and very gently begin to become changed. And it keeps us grounded as we're working with these huge energies. And the body is huge. So when I work with clients, as it sounds like you do as well, it's always about tracking the sensations of the body moment by moment, and tracking what's coming up moment by moment, and then slowing that down even more, expanding that and finding even more subtleties there. So and I bring in Qigong as well. So Qigong is one of, you know, taught me how to work in this way, as did the biodynamic craniosacral therapy, how to move really slowly and to feel the potency of slow and deep. So I bring in those movements, and I do have different physical practices to help women connect with their sexual soul. One of my favorite things is when a woman comes to me and says, well, I don't know if I even have a sexual soul. I have no sense of a sexual soul. And we do some very simple practices, and they start to get a sense right away. They're like, oh my gosh, I do have a sexual soul. I think I'm getting a little bit of an inkling of it. It's quite beautiful.
There were so many beautiful pieces around, and I have so many questions because you've piqued
Yes,
my
great.
curiosity around this. So I'll take it step by step. And my first question to you really is, when you mentioned yin, that quality of yin and the power that the yin brings, I think you're absolutely right when you said that this is something that can feel mysterious, chaotic, and therefore frightening. And therefore, in a very masculine dominated world where things are, we like things to be clear. We like there to be structure and packaged. But it also makes it hard to access this deeper, more primordial part of ourselves. So one of the things that I feel when it comes to working with women who want to access the sexual power and the yin energy that they have, a lot of them have been enclosed far too often in small little boxes. And when they have to step into the void and step and surrender into something that's bigger than them, there can be a lot of fear and hesitation.
Yes.
So to inspire the audience here, as you know, this summit is all about empowering women to take up space. So can you speak more into how the sexual soul, what it has to do with feminine power? How can it help enable women to develop more confidence and thereby take up more space in their lives?
Absolutely. Well, number one, your sexual soul wants to take up more space within you. Each of us, our sexual souls, let me out, let me take up space, let me express. And our wisdom is in that sexual soul. Our wisdom and when we actually turn towards what we desire and what gives us pleasure, that is our guide to the life that we want to live. That is our guide to our purpose in the world. That is our guide to being in alignment with our true selves. And that is power. Once you are connected with who you are, including the shadow sides of yourself. So not just the beautiful things that you want to celebrate and that you want to share, but the parts of you that are also the kind of dark places that are less comfortable. When we really get to know these parts of ourselves and embody them, then we are walking in the world in full integrity and sovereignty. Nobody can throw us off balance because they're seeing, we always need people to help us see what we can't see. But when we are open to receiving that, then we can move into all these different circumstances and we have our whole self with us. We understand, like, oh, this is a new situation. I'm learning something new. I don't have to be adept at this, but I have my whole self with me and I trust my whole self. So I think the other big piece about helping women to embrace their sexual soul is that people often don't trust their sexual energy. We've been told not to trust it. We've gotten in trouble with our sexual energy. I think we all have. And if we haven't, it's because we've shut it down so much. Then that's another, problem that we have. And the same with the yin. It's like the yin is so overwhelming that our culture's done everything it can to kind of shut it down. It doesn't trust the yin. When we start to trust our sexual souls, when we trust the yin, then we can move into situations and circumstances with a trustworthy companion, no matter where we go. And that is power. When we can trust ourselves, that is our integrity. And it means we trust our shadow side as well as as our glossy side that we want to show the world. And that creates an incredibly deep-rooted sense of self. It's like a tree, when you look at a huge, magnificent tree, you see the power of that tree. That tree has an integrity and a sovereignty. It's partly why it's devastating when we see these huge old forests being cut down. And yet their roots are still in the ground. They're still part of the life. So there's that, to me, is the connection with power. And also freeing an energy that, the sexual soul is connected to our hearts as well as our desires. It's connected to our love. And when we bring our love and what would we love to see in the world? What would we love to create? Who and what do we love, and what are we willing to do to take care of the things that we love and to grow the things that we love? This is incredibly powerful. Absolutely.
Thank you for speaking into the nature element of it. I love the analogy of the tree that you raised. I'm looking at the beautiful flowers that you have in your background, and I'm just thinking, that if women really stepped into and accessed their sexual souls and thereby their power, they would be able to bloom just so beautifully and naturally, without shame, without hiding.
Yes. Exactly.
And on that note, I really want to circle back to a point you made earlier about all the skewed media representations of sexuality. So, for example, very hypersexualized models that we see in magazines, on television, etc., which all lead to unhealthy, impossible standards of body image, and by extension, to sexuality. And the fact that there are these rampant toxic narratives around something that, as you mentioned, is so sacred, so precious and beautiful, something that is natural because it is life force. So because there is such a huge imbalance, which we are trying to address in our work, it's also true that I've encountered many women, female clients, who are hesitant to get into this part of themselves, to access their sexual souls. Now, earlier on, you said that you have a very gentle, slow approach. Yes. What are some of the practical steps you would give to someone who's only just learning, who may be watching this and thinking, you know what, I'm really curious, I want to find out more, but they could be also feeling tentative and hesitant about awakening to the sexual part of themselves. So any tips or suggestions that they can carry away with them?
Yes. Absolutely. There was something earlier that you said that I wanted to respond to before I share a practice with you, which is the toxic sexual images. And what I want to say about the sexual soul is that it doesn't want to perform or conform. And so these images that we see are all create a pressure to fit into a certain kind of image and to perform in a certain kind of way. And when we listen to our sexual soul, what we are asking is, what is my authentic expression? What is my authentic sexual expression? What sounds do I make? How do I move? How do I like to be touched? What parts of my body are sexy to me? Or what parts are my favorite parts that I love to share? And what would it feel like? I mean, we're so enculturated to certain images of sexuality. What would it feel like if we really peeled those away? And at the core is our own relationship with our sexual soul, first and foremost, before we ever share it with others, is, do we have an intimate connection with our own sexuality for ourselves? And this goes way beyond the idea, the rather narrow constraints of sexual pleasure even. This is just really about an intimacy with a deep part of oneself, with your own blueprint. So I'd love to offer a very simple series of practices right now to connect with that. Would that be okay, Irene?
Yeah, that's beautiful. Just before we jump right in, I want to echo everything that you've said about how getting to know your sexual soul is really a process of personal inquiry. All the questions that you've raised are actually very easy, accessible ways in which someone who's curious about their sexual souls can get in touch. There's sensuality and there's sexuality, and both are different. There are nuances to each, but Accessing the sexual parts of ourselves can often be done through exploring the world through the five senses. So you're referring to a question, how would I like to be touched? Right? Even just asking that one simple question. What clothes do I wear that feel good on my skin? What are some of the foods that bring me pleasure? And I know you also spoke a lot to the idea of pleasure and desire. Just getting in touch, not because society has imposed certain conditioning on us, telling us that such and such is good, is desirable, but really tapping into our inner knowing. So It sounds like you're ready to take us through a series of exercises to help us get in touch with this sexual part of us.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so take us away.
Okay, great. So I'm going to move the camera back a little bit so you can see a little more of my body. So I'm just going to ask all of our watchers and listeners to make yourself comfortable in a seated position. What I like to do is actually reach under and pull the buttock flesh out to either side so that you have a strong connection of the sit bones to whatever is supporting you. Because the first step to any sexual soul practice is to get grounded in the earth. And we have our beautiful skeleton, the bones, the solidity of the bones, which support the soft structure of our body. We have these bones to support us and ground us to the earth. And you can just let your eyes close and tune in to the sit bones, connecting with your seat. But then drop even deeper and connect with the earth. This great, vast planet that contains all of it, contains all the expressions of life. It supports all the expressions of life. Including your own expression of life, including your own body. And you can just relax and soften and let yourself feel the support. Let yourself feel this holding. With this support, your sexual soul can begin to relax as well. It can begin to take up more space. And then we'll bring our hands to our low belly or dantian, the place between the pubic crest and the belly button. Put the left hand on the body and then just cover the left hand with the right hand. And just feel your breath moving in your belly. A very gentle expansion as your belly gets bigger with the inhalation. And then it just recedes in towards the body with the exhalation. Very simple, just breathing. And just noticing. And then begin to stir at your belly at Dantian. So you're going to be moving the hands clockwise. So down on the left and coming up on the right, coming across the belly button and down on the left, across the pubic crest. And the hand that's underneath, that's in contact with your body, is your yin hand, the left hand. And the right hand is the yang. It's covering the left hand. It's providing a buffer between the intimate, the deep, the dark of the yin, and the outside world. So let that right hand be a shelter to this intimate and subtle work of the left hand. And as we stir, allow yourself to receive the pleasure of your own touch here. Enjoy this caressing of your belly and the sensuality of your belly, your womb space. And then at the same time, notice the pleasure of touching your own body with your hands. Feeling the contour of your belly, the texture of your clothes or your skin. Even the pleasure of the circular movement. And let your belly be soft. We hold so much unconscious tension in this area. Just check in and see if you can release even more. And then let the hands come to stillness. Back in the center between the pubic crest and the belly button. And once again, just let the hands ride on the belly as the belly fills with breath and then empties of the breath. And check in with your sexual soul. Even if you're not quite sure who or what or if your sexual soul exists. And then just for these last few minutes, just going to bring the hands to our yonis, actually to the vulva. So the same position of the left hand on the body and the right hand covering, just cup and hold your sex. So the middle finger of the left hand can be at the perineum, right between the vagina and the anus. And that right hand is once again providing a sense of privacy, shelter, protection, of the intimacy of the left hand and your sex. Feel the groundedness of your sit bones framing the softness of your sex. And then notice your breathing again. Relaxing in your belly. And noticing how your breath, just as it moved in the belly, also moves in your sex. So there's a sense of expansion on the inhalation and a drawing in and up towards the body on the exhalation. And there's nothing you need to do here but notice and allow. And this place that we're making contact, our sex, our perineum, we are also connecting with the root chakra. So when we connect with our sexual soul and our sexual energy, we are connecting with our root. We are actually becoming more grounded as we turn towards our sexual soul. We are coming more into ourselves. And as you breathe, imagine or feel that this is your sexual soul breathing in your sex, in your yoni, in your sexual center. On the inhalation, that sexual soul gently expands and takes up more space. And on the exhalation, there is a coalescing, a gathering back to essence, deep within you. And you can trust this energy. You can trust this rhythm of expansion and opening and return and gathering in. We'll just take a few more moments of breathing and feeling and allowing your sexual soul to take up even just a little more space. And then from here, very gently, just let your hands move back to dantian, your low belly. And feel the wholeness of the belly breathing and your sex breathing and your sexual soul breathing. And the earth breathing. So this is what I mean when I say embodiment. And then when you're ready, you can take a deeper breath that may turn into a yawn or a sigh and a stretch, and let your eyes open and take in your surroundings. Coming back.
Wow,
How was that for you?
that was such a nourishing treat. I'd like
Mm.
to invite our attendees, those who are watching, to just take a few moments now and journal, just to write down some of what the impressions that came up. And I'll share my experience, and you can see if it resonates. But I really encourage you to take some time inward. It's such a precious time when we connect to our sexual soul. You know, I felt my whole being shift and change. Even my voice feels different now. And then just quickly, you know, just take some time to journal it down, because you don't want to lose the wisdom that your sexual soul is telling you. So what I'll share is that I feel that it's been a busy day, and I know that a lot of women juggle multiple roles in their lives. They're often working, trying to get from point A to point B, which is a very masculine way of doing and being. So this short practice, it was only a few minutes, but it enabled me to ground back in the part of me that wants to go slow, the soft animal parts of me that just wants to take its time. It's a part of us that we don't often honor because of the frenetic pace in which modern life brings. So just a few minutes of reconnection, grounding myself back down in my body instead of operating from my head. That itself was a very precious moment. And when you got us to touch ourselves, it was in a non-sexual way, but it brought pleasure. Just putting my hand on my belly and just being able to move around and touch myself in a pleasurable way, and to feel pleasure in that simple act. And as we know, physical touch is so important, be it a hug, you know, for ourselves or with somebody else. So this simple act of placing our hands on a part of our bodies that can often feel quite vulnerable and quite tender as well. It's often a part of our body that we tend to protect. So placing our hands there. I also love the reminder when you mentioned that the left hand is that yin part of ourselves and that we are receiving. But at the same time, we also need to be held in a safe container. So when you mentioned the right hand and how that is, by extension, the more yang part of ourselves, that protects, that shelters, and enables us to go deeper into the yin part of us. I thought that was also a very important piece that I'd like our viewers to take away, because it's not just about only being in the yin, it's about coming back into balance. And when we ask for support, that's a yang way. We're actually initiating and reaching out so that we can receive and be present, be fully present in our yin. And as we were doing this practice, and I was feeling the energy arise in my belly, in my dantian, I also found myself opening up my throat. And
Yeah.
as you know, right, the pelvic area, the sexual area is so connected to our throat chakras as well. And I just felt myself sighing and just letting out slow, like, slow sighs like that just activated my entire body. And as we were doing the practice and we were connecting back into our essence, I loved the phrase, the presence of our essence. As I was feeling all of that, I began to tune in and saw that, my gosh, my body is dehydrated and it desires water. So then I took a moment to just drink.
Yeah.
And just give myself that yin nourishment that my body was craving. Yeah. And then towards the end of this practice, I also felt my heart open up. And I almost felt tempted to place one hand on my heart and one hand on my yoni, my pelvic region.
Yes.
Would you like to
Well,
say about that? Yeah.
that's actually the next step. Or sometimes we do that and then go to the yoni, but that is the natural alignment between our sex and our hearts, and the water element and the fire element, actually, if we talk about the Taoist 5 elements. And just, you know, the sex is that source of creation, and the heart is the manifestation and the offering of the creation, which can be received by ourselves as well. It doesn't just go out into the world. So it's so beautiful to connect, to hold both places. So yes,
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. And I know that this is only just a small taster of what you have to offer.
Yes.
So I know that you take your clients through a 7-month deep commitment journey, and there are 6 steps to this. So I think, having experienced your offering, your medicine here, can you say more about what these 6 steps are and share a little bit about their significance, how they support women in opening up to their sexual soul, so that those who are interested can reach out to you and find out more?
Absolutely. So, when we work with our sexual souls and we make a commitment to connect and integrate our sexual souls, it really does take us on a journey that connects with every area of our lives, past and present. And so the 7-month container allows the spaciousness to really go deep and follow where your sexual soul needs and wants to take you. And the gentle container for that journey are these 6 steps. And the first step is visioning, where we really you get to look ahead at this woman that you want to be, who you're already connected with, who is calling you and drawing you forth. And then the second step is remembering, where we remember back to our young self when we were close to that time of having just come into the world. And we're coming from this place of, we chose to come into this life. We have a purpose. We have a destiny here. We have a life force that wants to come through. And there was a time when we were really connected with that life force. And then life started to happen. We started to be raised and go through our childhood. And then that naturally takes us to the next step, which is healing, bringing up the wounds and the traumas that have separated us from this part of ourselves. The next step is reclaiming. So now we're reincorporating, we're reclaiming these pieces of ourselves that we had given away or lost or oppressed or forgotten. Then embodying. Now we're becoming really integrated. We're becoming full with who we fully are, and expressing that in everything we do. We carry that with us everywhere we go. We become reliable to ourselves. And then the final step is manifestation. This is where now we bring we deliver ourselves out into the world. This may be the moment where we bring our gifts out into the world. This may be the place where now we have developed a practice. So one of the key experiences of working with me is that I teach you practices to be with your sexual soul, to reconnect and expand and embody your sexual soul. And you begin to take these practices into your own life, and you find your own practices as you are exploring in this time with me, so that by the end, the step of manifestation, you actually have your own way that you care and cultivate for your sexual energy. And I actually ask you to then teach me your practice. So it's this journey that then at the end, you turn to me and say, now I offer to you, you're in your fullness. That is the journey. And I love to work with women one-on-one in this journey. And I have a new way of offering it, which is to bring together a group of 3 to 5 women, and to do this in a circle of women, which of course brings a whole other dimension of the shared wisdom, the shared journey, the shared courage, and the deepening of connection through the journey. So those of you listening, if you have a sister and a best friend, or 2 dear soul sisters, and you think, oh my goodness, the 3 of us could go on this journey together, I love to guide it that way as well.
Yeah.
And I also want to, yeah, go ahead.
No, please continue.
Well, I was also going to say, I'm guessing you're going to ask me about this, but you know, the practices, the how to connect, the times when we're unsure, the navigating the mysterious, scary, kind of formless realms. This is also the topic of the Oracle deck that I've created, which is, I'm actually today by the computer, I have this card, which is the card for grounding. And on the back is is the text about grounding, a poetic text that I've written, and I've collaborated with this artist. The cards are a beautiful way to help anchor and guide women, and I integrate those in my work, and women can get the cards themselves, and that's a self-guided journey also.
Beautiful. So 2 things I'd like to add on to everything that you just shared. I mean, first off, what an incredible journey that you take these women on. 7 months may seem like a long time, but it also feels like a container, a very safe, beautiful container in which you can go slow and go through all 6 steps. I love how you empower your clients at the very end, when it's not them taking direction from you, but it's them manifesting and coming up with their own process, what works for them, by listening and accessing their sexual soul. So that is incredible. I'm also thinking a lot about how sexual energy is very much related to our creative energies. So you're right on point on saying that I wanted to talk about your Oracle deck, because I would like you to share your personal journey. You've shared a little bit about the 6 steps that you guide your clients through. And obviously, you've also gone through this journey yourself. So I'd like to ask you about your process when you designed your Oracle deck and bringing it into fruition. Yes. What emerged from this creative cauldron, and what insights do you have to share for women who wish to birth or create a project by tapping into their sexual soul?
Yes. Well, this deck, I'll share another image. This is your voice. This is surrender. This deck came out of a question that a teacher I work with was asking me, which is, what can I guarantee my clients? And it was a question that has worked on me for several years since she asked it. And I started sketching out these different elements of the yin, or what I consider the powers of the yin, that I teach about and that I am listening for. And they're like guideposts, like, oh, this is a place where we need to surrender. This is a place where we need to slow down. This is a place where we need to move into receptivity. This is a place where we need to move into action. This is a place where we need to come into embodiment and talk about embodiment. And as I was sketching them out, it was like a mind map, you know, words here. And I realized it actually formed a journey. And there were different things that happened along the journey. And there was an arrival point at the end of the journey. And of course, at the same time, the journey just keeps spiraling as well. And one day after working with this and drawing it up and really feeling into it, I just started on a walk, and I suddenly thought each one of these could be an oracle card that somebody can pull and work with this power or this realm of the yin, this aspect of the yin for themselves. And I'm somebody who, as you mentioned, I'm the daughter of 2 artists. And so I'm very creatively and artistically inclined, although I'm not an artist myself in that way. And there was an artist whose work I've admired for many years, who knows how to capture and express energy, honestly, these felt sense experiences. And I knew that she would be the ideal match for this deck. And she said yes. And it's been this incredible process, because so what has started out as, you know, my baby, as babies do, as it comes into the world, it turns out it has its own life. This deck has its own life. Each of these cards is its own being that is carrying an energy, and that wants to live in the world and do its work, or do her work, I should say. They're all almost all the feminine. And so it's been this incredibly humbling and powerful experience to give voice to something, give form to something, and then have it begin to take on its own life. And I actually feel that this deck is now taking care of me, that it's my job to actually serve the deck, and the deck will take care of me in return. So that's some of the, and I'll just say that whenever I use the deck with my clients, I've been using it in classes. I'm now going to be teaching workshops with the deck. Magic happens, you know, people pull the card that is exactly the message that they needed. And then I'm in turn able to bring it into the body with a particular movement that they can then experience what the card is teaching on an even deeper level.
And as you were saying into that, I was just reflecting on how the creative process, like the birthing process, is such an organic, fluid process, where oftentimes, you know, we want a linear, straightforward, direct, very masculine and young way of doing things. But oftentimes, as life will show, as nature shows us every day, we oftentimes have to curve and spiral and flow with the scheme of things. And as you were sharing your process of how you had the ideas just came, they percolated, and somehow you managed to find the right artist, and how it was a beautiful flowing collaboration, and then how it all came together, the inspirational downloads that furthered your process and journey, that just got me to see that that is such a yin process. At this point, I wonder if you could hold up the card that stands for home, because I feel that a lot of, you know, coming back into our sexual soul,
yes,
is about being at home with ourselves. And I'd like to read out a poem that you came up with actually when you designed this card. And I thought I would read it as you hold it up so that our viewers can see the card, and then they can hear the poem that came through to you as you designed this beautiful card.
Oh, beautiful. Yes. What I can do, so I'm about 3 weeks away from printing the full deck. So I actually don't have the home card in print form yet. So I'm going to need to share my screen.
Yes.
So let me do that. I'll share the image. And I just need to make sure that, let's see, hang on one second. I love that you're picking out that card.
Yeah.
You want to...
Let me say
Okay.
more, because when I saw it, I just thought, wow, what a beautiful homecoming it is for women to awaken to their sexual essence. You were talking about this pressure to perform, and then
yes,
how when we strip all the performative aspects away, we come back to our authentic selves, and that enables us to then fully be in the presence of our essence, which is a coming home.
yes. I just need permission to share my screen. So
yeah, such a beautiful card, Daven. And I'm going to read out this poem and then get you to share some of your thoughts and reflections in relation to this card. Home. Here your soul drops into its rightful place. Your every breath whispers, thank you. Here you rest more deeply than you have ever known. This is where your sap rises and flows, where life arouses you into an ecstasy of blooming. This is where you feel the love that has been here for you all along. Just drinking those words in and looking at this beautiful image of arriving, coming home to yourself.
And the lights are on. Your cat is waiting for you. You're not arriving at an empty house that needs to be warmed up and cleaned up and decorated. It's been waiting for you. It's welcoming you.
Yes, what I'm seeing is a welcoming that you've really come home to yourself. So thank you, Daven, for this powerful gift. You can stop your screen share. Thank you for gifting us with the opportunity to experience your medicine. I'd love for our audience to know how they can find out more about your work. And I think this will be a perfect time to say more about the generous gift you're offering to all summit attendees.
Yeah, thank you.
So Daven's free gift is a guided meditation for your sexual soul, as well as an oracle card from her Power of the Yin Oracle deck. You can click on the URL on the summit page and sign up for it. Daven, is there anything you would like to add about your gift offering?
It's very straightforward. It's just a very sweet little meditation to help you. I've had people question if they have a sexual soul, how do I connect with my sexual soul? And so this is just a very simple way you can take the time and open the space and discover for yourself the answers to those questions. And it does include an image and the text from the oracle card that is your sexual soul. That's the name of the card.
Beautiful. And before we close, do you have any final thoughts, messages of wisdom that you'd like our audience to take away?
I hope that what everyone out there has received is that the understanding that this energy is your essence, and that it is a sacred practice to turn towards this essence and to cultivate it and to get to know it and to embody it and to let it take up space. That when you do, this will lead to your healing, wholeness, and empowerment.
Beautiful. Oh, I really received that message. I'd like to encourage our attendees to sign up for your free gift and also to rewatch this conversation, to come back to that practice again. It's something that is so easy and accessible that you can do in a safe, sacred space in your own room, just holding yourself, getting in touch with your sexual soul. And then
Yes.
when you're ready to take on the next steps, to enlarge yourself, to expand, to manifest, you can find out more from Daven and the work that she does. So this has been an incredible conversation on a topic that I feel is so essential to awakening and empowering a whole being. My biggest takeaway is that if we cut off access to our sexual power, we're cutting off a beautiful, sacred expression of our soul.
Exactly.
So thank you for that beautiful reminder to come home, to come back to ourselves, to our essence. And thank you, Daven, for your time, your energy, your medicine, and all the incredible good work that you're doing.
Oh, Irene, thank you for creating this space and this beautiful invitation to women the world over to take up space. What a different world we would be in if every woman said, yes, I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that now. So may it be so.
May it be so, and so it is. And with that,
Yes.
we'll close our call. Thank you.
Thank you so much.